Speaker.
Honorable Deputy Abitibi-Témiscamingue.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue, National Defence. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last week I asked several questions to the Parliamentary Secretary, to the Minister of National Defence, as part of the adjournment debate, and I have an opportunity to come back to another one today because this question is on the same topic and I still haven't received an answer to it. It's been quite a long time. The Parliamentary Secretary once again referred to the government 7-point plan. It hasn't done anything to change the situation, and it isn't even being followed or respected by the government that put it in place. It's what we call a smokescreen. It also means or can be called something designed to take people for idiots. It depends on how you want to call it. In reality, the minister doesn't seem to have anything to say to save face. Last week, the Parliamentary Secretary advised me to look at the National Secretariat's website for procurement. And, of course, I decided to follow up on that recommendation. And I found that it said it is designed to ensure transparency and timely communication of the following information: regular reports presented to Parliament, exchanges of information on an ongoing basis with stakeholders, the implementation of a website to share information, the regular update of the action plan. Now, when we talk about regular reports to the government, it says the Minister of Public Works and Government Services Canada announced on the 13th of June that this Secretariat would be functional. 6 months later, we still have no report from the Secretariat. Exchanges of information with stakeholders. Even the head of the Air Force didn't even know what the status of the Secretariat was. Implementation of the action plan, or update on the action plan. There haven't been any. We have been using question period to ensure that these issues are not being mixed up. There's a big date between an update in question period and an update on this under this action plan. An update is designed to provide new information. The government is simply using this plan to see how it's going to get out of this mess it's created for itself. On the website, we also see that the Secretariat does reasonable due diligence, and is transparent. However, this work is being overseen by this Deputy Minister. He didn't do this due diligence and provide this transparency. The Parliament and the people of Canada must have confidence in the process put in place to replace the CF-18s. Why is that so important? Well, because none of these promises are being respected at the Secretariat. 9 months after the report of the Auditor General, nothing's been done. The government talked about immediate measures, but nothing has changed in the past 6 months. We know the same Deputy Minister with the same data from the same people at DND are being used. And they are the ones making up the Secretariat. As a result, Mr. Speaker, why would Canadians have confidence in or trust this Secretariat?
The Secretary of Parliament.
Speaker, and please.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Ms. Skimming, I welcome the fact that she asked for an adjournment debate on this question. As the member is aware, on April 3rd, 2012, the Auditor General tabled his spring report in Chapter 2 entitled Replacing Canada's Fighter Jets. He recommended that the government refine its estimates for the full life cycle costs of the F-35 and make those estimates public. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to have this opportunity to explain that by introducing the government's 7-point plan, the government will fulfill and exceed the Auditor General's recommendation. To be clear, this plan effectively pushed restart on the replacement of the CF-18s. No decision on replacement fighter aircraft will be made until that 7-point plan is complete. As part of the 7-point plan, Mr. Speaker, the National Fighter Procurement Secretariat was established and is housed under Public Works and Government Services Canada. The Secretariat has the lead coordinating role as the government moves to replace Canada's CF-18 fleet and will ensure that due diligence, oversight, and transparency are applied. a Deputy Minister Governance Committee, which includes 2 independent members. Mr. Denis Desautels and Dr. Kenneth Norrie has been established and are meeting regularly. The Secretariat is making great progress in implementing the 7-point plan. I encourage my parliamentary colleagues to consult the Secretariat's website to learn more about all of the work that's being done. Mr. Speaker, again, the evaluation of options to sustain a Canadian Forces fighter capacity well into the 21st century is underway and will involve a full evaluation of choices. This detailed evaluation will provide the best available information about the range of choices that could meet the needs of our men and women in uniform. The Secretariat will commission an independent review of the acquisition process. A request for proposal was issued on October 26, 2012 to select a company to conduct this review. The third party will provide us with lessons learned so that we can look to improve the way we conduct similar acquisitions in the future. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. On the objectives of the independent acquisition process review, we are not questioning the work of the Auditor General. I would like to repeat that the government has accepted his findings and recommendations. Rather, this review will allow us to address the Auditor General's concerns with the acquisition process. Mr. Speaker, the government's 7-point plan is a comprehensive response to the Auditor General's recommendation and conclusions in Chapter 2 of his Spring 2012 report. Progress continues to be made on its implementation. Our objective, Mr. Speaker, is to give Canadians, parliamentarians, confidence in the open and transparent acquisition process that will be used to replace the CF-18 fleet. In closing, I would like to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, that this government has effectively pushed restart on the replacement of the CF-18s. The funding envelope allocated for the acquisition of the F-35 has been frozen. And we are looking at all options, Mr. Speaker. All elements of the 7-point plan will be completed before this government makes a decision. Mr. Speaker, we remain committed to ensuring the brave men and women of the Canadian Forces have the right to equipment they need to do their job while securing best value for Canadian taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député David.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I just said, if the government, or while the government boasts about making progress on this issue, they're leaving Canadians in the dark. In March of 2012, before the Auditor General's report, the Associate Minister of National Defence said, and I quote, "We will continue to act in a responsible way vis-à-vis the joint fighter." A month later, we saw that that was really far from being the case. Today, we're being told that the Secretariat is ensuring due diligence, but there's no evidence to prove that. Are we going to have to wait for another Auditor General's report for the government to recognize that nothing is progressing? Why should we believe that the government is taking steps to make progress if they have nothing to do except to tell us that we should consult the website? And I've done that. I've spoken to that issue already.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and please allow me to reiterate the following. Notwithstanding the additional cost that a carbon tax would increase on any supply chain management issue, whether we're talking about fighter jets or the Northern Nutrition Program, anything you want to talk about, I want to take this opportunity to talk about this 7-point plan so that the member completely understands that it was introduced by the government defining how due diligence is to be applied as we move forward with replacing Canada's fighter jets. On June 13, 2012, the Government of Canada announced that the Secretariat was operational within Public Works. The Secretariat has the lead coordinating role as the government moves to replace Canada's CF-18 fleet and is ensuring that due diligence, oversight, and transparency are being applied. The government has effectively pushed restart on the replacement of the CF-18s. I wish the NDP would press restart on this whole notion of a carbon tax. That said, no decision will be made until the 7-point plan is complete. The evaluation of options is underway and will provide the best available information about the range of choices that could meet the needs of our men and women in uniform.
The motion to adjourn the House is now